Hi guys, it's Nixia Phoenix, and today I will be doing a little video discussion on religious terminology. So, like words like monotheistic and polytheistic, I talked about in another video, as well um, as words like orthopraxic, orthodoxic, animism, things like that. So let's get into it. So, what is monotheism? So, if we break this word down, mono means one, and theism means theology, um, which means divine, gods. So a monotheistic religion is a religion that has only one God in its religion. There is no other gods. Um, all other gods are either demons or not even real at all. Um, And some examples of this kind of religion are Abrahamic religions like Christianity, Judaism, um, Muslim Islam. Um, listing off the top of my head, I think that's all of the Abrahamic religions: Christianity, Islam. And when I say Christianity, I'm Catholicism to me goes hand in hand with Christianity because they're like literally the same thing, but and religious like terminology, but um, if you don't consider them the same, um, I guess Catholicism too. Anything that's like a man named Abraham created the religion, right? And from him and I'm not really sure the specifics, but I know Abrahamic is because Abraham, and there's the same God in all of these religions, but each of the religions thinks differently about the same situations and the same people. So, like Jesus in one religion is the Son of God, and in another religion he is just a prophet, and in another religion he's not even a thing. I think or something. But I'm uh, not a master or a teacher in this religion. I am not, I have no, I have basic skills of Christianity. I know basics of it, but I'm not like a teacher in it or a practitioner or a believer or someone who is really advisable to be able to advise others in this religion. So I can tell you the basics, but I cannot tell you like specifics. I advise you to go to somebody who does know the don't don't learn from someone who doesn't practice religion. Learn from someone who does practice a specific religion. What I'm saying right now is facts that I'm not going to add more or say any more that I don't know. And I'm not going to guess or give opinions. And that is because I do not give opinions. I don't believe that opinions should be in school or in learning atmospheres. It should all be objective and factual. But that might just be because I'm a pagan. I'm not sure. But I don't believe that facts, like in a factual space, like a learning environment, um, opinion should not be, and subjectivity should not be in this space. So I will be talking about objective facts, definitions of things, Um, but I will not be talking about like some of my opinions or some of my guesses about certain things. Um, so that is just my value, and that's what I believe. Not even a religious belief, but like just a belief about life and how things should be done, and my moral values and things like that. So, um, That being said, let's talk about some other religions that might be monotheistic. Not might be, but are monotheistic. I'm not really sure of other religions that are, so I'm gonna have to look this up. So I did not know that this religion called Baha'i, I think that's how you pronounce it. That's actually an Abrahamic religion too. I always thought it was like a pagan or Eastern, like spiritual tradition, but it's actually Abrahamic. So Abrahamic starts with Abraham, and there's like prophets of the same God. They all believe in the same God, but they believe different things of different they believe different things of like Jesus, Muhammad, like certain people. And um, so we have Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, the the Bab, the, and then Baha'u'llah. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, but I have no idea how to pronounce that. Um, so people who believe in the Baha'i faith, if that's how you pronounce it, believe that there's one God, like the Abrahamic God, and it teaches progressive revelation, meaning God sends different prophets called manifestations throughout history to guide humanity based on the needs of the time. So the Baha'i faith considers itself the next stage in the Abrahamic line of revelation, following Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, the Bab, and Baha'u'llah. Baha'u'llah is viewed by Baha'is as the most recent messenger of God and part of the same spiritual lineage as the prophets of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So there you go. I learned something new. Now, I wanted to know more about religions that were monotheistic but also not Abrahamic, which is like unheard of. Usually, I don't know of many religions that are monotheistic and are not Abrahamic. So I wanted to know more about those kinds of religions. And so there's Zoroastrianism. Its origins come from ancient Persia or modern day Iran. It's founded by the prophet Zoroaster. Um, its god is the Ahura Mazda, the one supreme, uncreated, all good deity. It's dualistic in practice, good versus evil, Ahura Mazda versus Andhra Banyu, but still I probably butchered that, but still considered monotheistic because only Ahura Mazda is divine in the ultimate sense. Basically like Christianity with the God and the devil. Um, and possibly one of the earliest monotheistic religions. So there's Sikhism. Um, I realize I've always read that word, but I've never actually known how to pronounce it. That's the story of my life, honestly. I like reading. Um, and I actually consider it like if you're not good at pronouncing a word, I consider that the highest form of intelligence, honestly. Because I know that you learned it from a book, from reading, not from like learning it from somebody just talking about it. So I view that as the highest form of intelligence. Like if you don't know how to pronounce a word, I trust I trust you. So anyway, its origin comes from 15th century Punjab, India, founded by Guru Nanak. Its god is Ik Onkar, Ikonkar, the one supreme reality, beyond gender and form. It emphasizes devotion, equality, and service, and it's strongly monotheistic and distinct from both Hinduism and Islam. And then there is Atinism. So Atinism is basically like how like paganism in ancient times had like different cults, and not like the word cult that we think of today, but like cults as in um like there was a cult of Apollo. Like there like one god had like a group following. Like usually like just the religion of Greece was like all gods are worshipped all the time and everything. Um, but in the cults are like specifically like deeper spirituality and deeper mysteries of the specific god, and they focus mainly on that god. So Atenism would be a cult, basically kind of like a cult of the god Aten, which was a solar disk. So they worship him as the one true god. Akhenaten suppressed the worship of other deities, making this a short-lived monotheistic revolution and otherwise polytheistic culture. So some forms of Hinduism can be monotheistic, such as Advaita Vedanta and Smartism. I've never heard of that, which is weird because I do a lot of Greek, a lot of a lot of Hellenic pagans do kind of merge Hinduism because Hinduism is, you know, the oldest living religion. So, and Hindus do consider themselves pagan. Um, and a lot of Greek Hellenic pagans and Hindus kind of like come together. A lot of Hellenic pagans do bring Hinduism into their practice. I don't know if that's like a thing. And it just happens. It just happens naturally. Because it just happened to me. Just random, like, I'm eclectic pagan, so I do find truth in all faiths. And all pagan traditions, I find truth in them. And even sometimes I find truth in other things that aren't even pagan. But um, anyway, let me get off that subject. While Hinduism is generally polytheistic or henotheistic, Advaita Vedanta teaches that Brahman is the one ultimate reality, and all gods are aspects or manifestations of that oneness. So a lot of pagans actually do believe in that to an extent, that there is like a universal God, and that each specific god, each individual god is an aspect of that nameless, universal God, but more like in the way that we as humans are all the same. Like we're one. Um, at least that's how I see it as. Um, we're all this, human race. We're all one. We're all connected. We're all part of the same source, the same. Um, that's how the gods are too. So, so in this sense, it can be monistic, all is one, which overlaps with philosophical monotheism. So there's some other um, religions too, but I'm not gonna name them. But yeah, monotheistic is a belief in one God, and not like I talked about the cult of, like, for example, cult of Apollo, a cult of Zeus, or a cult of Aphrodite or whatever. That was more like they focused on one god or goddess. Monotheistic is more like not even just focused on one god, but like there only is one god. So that's what monotheistic means. And those are some examples of monotheism. So now we have dualism. It's kind of similar to monotheism in a way. Like, so we have dualism with like opposing forces, basically. And some monotheistic religions can be dualistic religions as well. Um, or it can also be like, it could be like opposing forces like good and evil, or it could be like opposing forces like man and woman, female, male, which is like a traditional Wiccan religion. So the Wiccan religion is a tradition of paganism. It's a very specific tradition of paganism. is a modern tradition of paganism. And traditional Wicca is god and goddess, the triple goddess and the horned god. Um, so that could also be considered dualistic religion as well. So, but mostly in religious terms, other than like Wiccan example, dualism often means a cosmic battle between good and evil, like dark or spirit and matter. Um, like Christianity with God and angels, and then we have demons, the devil. Um, that's dualistic. Um, Also, Zoroastrianism is dualistic, and mostly Gnostic Christianity is dualistic. Um, so that's pretty much it for that. So I can really say about that. Now we have polytheism, which is me. Hi. So poly means many. Like if you've heard of the word polyamorous, polygamy, many wives or many loves. Um, Same thing. Polytheism. Just take that in a divine sense. um, so examples of belief in many gods. Um, is basically anything that's pagan. So Hellenistic paganism, Kemeticism, Norse paganism or heathenry, Hinduism, Celtic paganism, shamanism, indigenous religions. Um, that's even like some ancient Chinese religions, like the different gods like Chang'e. Not sure how to pronounce that, but that's the moon goddess in Chinese. So different, usually in polytheism, there's many gods because different gods are um, ruling over or are parts of nature, like the sun and the moon and the earth itself, and different planets, and sometimes even different stars or constellations, the ocean, different elements, um, the night sky, like Nyx, is the great goddess of night, um, the air, sky, Uranus, things like that. So that's what polyamory, or not polyamory, oh my god, polytheism, um, uh, polytheism. That's what polytheism is. I'm just kind of close to polyamory because I do love my gods, but it's more of like a familial love. Like Apollo is one of my patron gods, and Nyx is another patron goddess, and they're kind of like mother and father to me. So they're the closest to me of all the gods. And sometimes I feel like I get so used to and comfortable in their presence that I like kind of forget sometimes that not all gods have the same personality. Um, and sometimes when I do introduce myself to other gods, try to work with other gods, they seem so different. And I'm just like, oh, I don't have the same reputation or the same um experience with them that I do with Nyx and Apollo. So we don't have like a built relationship with each other yet. We're just meeting and we're just like formal, like, hi, shaking hands, and it's really interesting. So I'm very used to like the very loving, like very, oh my baby kind of feeling from my gods, and they will do anything for me. Like I would do anything for them, and there's just so much love in that relationship. And then I met what is it? Persephone, I think it was. And she just seemed so cold. Like she seemed so different that what I wasn't expecting it. And she was like, "You don't have pomegranates for me? Why not?" Because my gods are very forgiving. Nyx and Apollo are very forgiving. Like they will accept anything. Like it's kind of like how a kindergartner kind of like draws a picture at school, and they come home and their mother like thinks it's like the Picasso. It's kind of like how my gods are. And then I went to Persephone and tried to talk with her, and she's not like, "No, you can't substitute. I want pomegranates. Why aren't you coming to me with pomegranates? Like, why do you think I'm going to care what you're talking about?" And so it's like I forgot God's people like this. Um, yeah, but she did work with me anyway. So she really did. She really did. Like I not in the very same way that Apollo works with me, but like they are different. They are very specifically different. Um, they're not the same. They're not the same. They're not even aspects of the same. I mean, to an extent, but like I can feel the difference. Like I'm working with a different deity, different uh, personification or personality, and it's completely different. And so they each have different things to teach me and to show me. And the way they teach me is through life experience and actually experiencing it through them. Um, basically divine possession, stuff like that. So that's how they teach me. That's how Persephone and Demeter was very specifically. Like last year during the what do you call it? Eleusinian Mysteries, which is Demeter and Persephone's sacred time when Demeter goes into the underworld and Persephone goes into the otherworld and Demeter is crying. And I felt Persephone's perspective on that. I was possessed, basically kind of divinely possessed by her, and I experienced her perspective of it. And then I was given Demeter's perspective of it. It's just different. It's just different. And, but I got both sides. And it's just like, wow. Like, it helps me understand like helicopter mothers. What's going on in their brain? What's going on? And it's like, yeah, as a girl, as a daughter, I'm just like, ew. Why, how could you do that to your own daughter? Like, let her live. Let her be an individual person. And then I was the helicopter mother. And I'm just like, I can understand. I can see. I can feel it. Like, it makes perfect sense. But I'm coming from both, I have both, I have both perspectives and both experiences. So that diversification, that balance, that harmony, that understanding of two different sides. As a Libra, a moon in Libra, I crave that, and I had that experience, and so I'm very grateful to Persephone and Demeter for that. They're not my patron gods. I don't work with them 24/7 like I do with Apollo. I don't even work with Nyx that much anymore, even though she is my patron goddess. She is really in the background, but she's a one for one she's Chthonic, but she is why am I getting words today? So she's a primordial she's a primordial. Let me completely say that so you can hear me because I talk fast sometimes. But she's a primordial goddess, and primordials are a lot less anthropomorphic than like say for example Apollo. Apollo is very anthropomorphized. He's very human, like in a way that like not human, but like he's a being. He's a person. He's fully formed and a body, right? Not like a physical body, a spiritual body, but like he's anthropomorphic. Nyx is the night. She is the essence of night. She isn't really anthropomorphized. I mean, she can, she has for me, but for the most part, it's like a feeling. It's a vibration that I get. It's a luxury. It's a sensuality in the nighttime. It's that comforting feeling. It's that time where I get this creative inspiration during the night, and I just feel like this night priestess, and that's her. That's her. And when I'm coming to Apollo, I feel like when I get his statue and I hug it, I feel his arms around me, like his physical arms. That's spiritual. I see him bodily. I can speak with him in human words. Nyx, it's a lot less like that. Um, so it's different, especially like each being, each god is different, but also like for example, different levels of God. So like there's the Olympic gods. If I can speak today, if my words can come today, that'd be great. The Olympic gods are the most um, anthropomorphized, and so they're easier to connect with, I guess, in a way. And then there is like the Titans above them, not really above them hierarchically because the war, the Titan. I can't even say that word. There's so many words that I thought I could say because I say it easily in my mind, and then when I try to speak it in my mouth, it's like hard to form into words. Titanomachi, Titanomachi. The war between the Olympians and the Titans. Um, but gods like uh, Hecate, which is a Titan. She's a Titan, but she was um, forgiven, whatever, by Zeus. And some Titans that did side with Zeus, but so there's Olympians and there's the Titans, and then there's like the primordials, and then there's chaos. Um, I forgot where I was going with this. They're they have different levels of like they have different levels of anthropomorphication. That's a word. I think it is. um, I think I was going somewhere different with that, but that's anyway. My brain kind of veers off sometimes. And I'm just scrambled to like try to get back on track, but then it's gone, and so I'm just anyway. Yeah. Um, that's the order of like the anthropomorphic, and so there's different gods. That's what I was talking about. Okay, different gods like the Olympian gods. They're all like similar in a way because they're Olympian. And then there's Titans, and they're all similar in their own way because they're Titans, but they're different from Olympians. And they're different from each other because they're individuals, but they're also Titans. But that hopefully that makes sense. There's like different groups, people of gods, and they're the same to each other because they're in a group. A Titan is more like a Titan than an Olympian, but she's still different than other Titans. That makes sense, hopefully. And same for all other levels gods. Um, so that is polyamory from my own take, my own experience, personal experience. I can't say the same for others um, like Hermeticism or heathenry or Hinduism. Hinduism is one of probably more um, different than Hellenism or like neo-paganism. Um, because it's like it's survived so long. It didn't like end at a time because paganism did end at a time, and then we brought it back. So and also it's a lot of it was like the book burnings of Alexandria and the witch burnings, and the Druids knew a lot, but there were no records of it because they didn't write down. They had beliefs that writing down things was bad, and speaking it in um a speech, no, teaching through speech was better. But now we don't have any records of those things, what they taught, none at all. So, I don't really truly believe that speech is better. I do believe that books are better, but that might just be my own um, subjective beliefs because I come from a grandmother who was a librarian and I love books. I love reading. Um, I practice Lectio Divina or Divina, however you pronounce it, but I do like reading, so I'm kind of biased when it comes to that, I guess. Um, anyway, let's get to the next word, which is going to be orthodoxy. Orthodoxy. This means right belief. In religion, it refers to systems that emphasize correct doctrine and official teachings as the foundation of spiritual life. Orthodoxy is about believing the right things based on sacred texts, tradition, and authoritative interpretation. For example, in Christianity, Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches hold tightly to early creeds and theological councils. In Islam, Sunni and Shia traditions have clearly defined doctrines based on the Quran and Hadith, Hadith. There are so many words I'm gonna have to like put into like Google Translate and just like say it for me, please. I read too much. Um, in Judaism, Orthodox branches strictly follow the Torah and rabbinic law. The strength of orthodoxy is that it gives structure, clarity, and unity. It creates a shared identity across time and space. You know what your community stands for. But on the flip side, strict orthodoxy can limit personal exploration or silence the voices that question the rules. It can lead to dogmatism or exclusion, especially for people who see the divine differently. Contrast this with orthopraxy, which we'll talk about later. So I'm not going to talk about this right now, but the contrast to this is orthopraxic religions. So orthodoxic religions is Christianity, Islam, Judaism, mostly. Um, and also, like, any tradition can have orthodoxic practices. But there are some religions that are more orthopraxic than they are orthodoxic. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. So, so in contrast, orthopraxy means right practice or correct action. Unlike orthodoxy, which focuses on right belief, orthopraxy is about what you do, your rituals, ethics, and daily spiritual practices. In religions with strong orthopraxic traditions, living out your faith through actions is the most important part. This means ceremonies, ethical behavior, and community participation shape your spirituality. So, some examples can be Judaism, especially in traditional practice, by following the 613 mitzvot commandments and rituals like the Sabbath observance are central. In Islam, there are the five pillars: prayer, fasting, charity, and pilgrimage. So it's only four. But okay, I'm reading from a script. And that forms the core of religious life. And mostly in many pagan and indigenous religions, where honoring the cycles of nature through ceremonies and offerings matters more than strict doctrinal belief. Also, for me specifically, um, actually living out my values and ensuring that what I do represents who I am. Like what I like I don't just believe in a certain moral or value. I actually like act on that. And so nobody can say, "Oh, you're a hypocrite." They can't say that about me. That's the one thing they can't say about me because I will hold someone else to the same standards that I hold to myself. And I will hold myself to my own standards. I will make sure I will notice when I'm doing something that goes against my values, and I will actually act on trying to be better and trying to do differently, live differently. And I will always watch myself and make sure that, for one, know thyself. Know thyself is the first maxim of Apollo. Apollo says to know thyself. That's the most important thing. Um, So first, you have to know what your values really are, not not the values that somebody else told you to do or follow, not the values that your society tells you to follow, what you truly believe and what your true values are. And then make sure you know those truly, and then make sure you live by those. And that is my practice. That is my personal practice. Um, and then there is Hinduism, where diverse practices like yoga, puja, and dharma guide daily life. The strength of orthopraxy is that it's embodied and experiential. It integrates spirituality into everyday life and community. But sometimes it can feel like rote performance if the meaning behind actions isn't felt or understood. And because belief is less emphasized, some people may practice without deeply connecting to the why behind it. Um, I see that a lot too. I see that like people just um they will do spells or they will do like offerings to the gods and they won't like really feel it. They'll just go through the motions. And sometimes I feel like for me, I feel like you have to have both. You have to have a balance of orthodoxy and orthopraxy because you need to have that emotion, that belief behind your actions. Like make sure you know why you're doing something and always have a meaning behind what you do. Always have intention and meaning behind what you do. And that's why I love when people really emphasize will and intention in spell work. That's very important. So, in short, orthopraxy invites us to show our spirituality through living it, reminding us that actions often speak louder than words or beliefs. Animism. This is one of the oldest spiritual beliefs in the world. Animism is the idea that all things, living and non-living, have a spirit or life force. This means animals, plants, rivers, mountains, and even weather phenomena are seen as alive and conscious in some way. Instead of viewing nature as just a resource, animism teaches us to relate to the world with respect and reciprocity, recognizing that everything around us is connected through spirit. Animism is common in many indigenous cultures worldwide, including Native American, African, Australian, Aboriginal, and Shinto traditions. For example, in Shinto, kami are spirits found in natural elements like trees and waterfalls. Many Native American tribes honor the spirits of animals and land as sacred ancestors. African traditional religions often communicate with ancestral spirits and nature beings. The beauty of animism is that it encourages deep connection, respect, and care for the environment, seeing the earth as a living community. Animistic beliefs are sometimes misunderstood or dismissed as primitive by outsiders, which can lead to cultural erasure. But today, many people are returning to animistic practices as a way to rebuild harmony with nature and honor the sacredness of all life. So this is also a lot of Wiccan and modern paganism practices are animistic as well. Like for example, the sun being Apollo, though in ancient Greece they did believe that the Olympians kind of when they when they defeated the Titans, they ruled over them. They ruled over the Titans, so the gods were above nature, kind of. So like Helios was the sun, but then Apollo is now god of the sun, not the sun itself. So in a way, Hellenic paganism does kind of make nature look like it's inferior, which I don't like. It's not that goes against my values. And so in my practice, my personal practice, I do see Apollo as another version of Helios. I don't see them much very separate. I see them as different aspects of each of the same god. And I also see Hermes kind of similar as an aspect of Apollo. They're very similar in my practice. So when I have met the gods Apollo and Hermes, they did feel very similar, very much the same. Um, and so I don't take things extremely literally, especially not in mythology, like Greek mythology. I don't take Greek mythology itself very literally. I go by like UPG and mysticism. I don't go by like Reconstructionist beliefs or like the mythology. Like I do take the hymns, and I recite the hymns, and I've noticed that Apollo does really like the hymns. He does. Um, so there's that. But other than that, I don't really. I'm very more spiritual pagan, and I'm more mystical pagan than a like a by the book, like this is what blah, 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 I go by personal experience, personal gnosis, and um, unverified personal gnosis. Um, and I do believe that nature is God. It is divine. It is important. Um, it's special and magical, and I'm animistic. I'm an animistic pagan. Um, and that, in a way, also honors my Native American ancestors and heritage. So, now a word that's very similar to pantheism, which I actually probably relate to a little bit more than pantheism itself, is panentheism. Panentheism. So, this is a spiritual belief that says God is in everything, but also beyond everything. So the word comes from pan, which is all, en, which is in, and theos, God, meaning all is in God, but not all is God, like in pantheism. So the difference is that in pantheism, God is the universe. In panentheism, God includes the universe but also goes beyond it, like the ocean containing all waves, but also being more than just the waves. This belief shows up in Hinduism, especially in Vedantic philosophy, where Brahman is both immanent within everything and transcendent, which we will talk about those words later as well, which is those words also are very like close to these words. They're kind of very similar. Um, so we'll talk about that later. Christian mysticism, where God is seen as both present in the world and beyond it, especially in thinkers like Meister Eckhart, and then process theor- yeah, process theology, which is a modern philosophical view that says God evolves with creation and feels everything we feel. The beauty of pantheism is that it gives us both a personal and cosmic God, a divine presence that's intimate and woven through all things, yet still mysterious and vast. It bridges the gap between a God out there and God right here, offering a sense of deep connection without losing the mystery. It's especially meaningful for people who feel spiritual in nature or life, but still sense something greater than the material world. So this is very much paganism, neo-paganism, Hellenic paganism, and how, like I talked about, how Apollo is Helios. Ow, I didn't think that would hurt. Um, God, Apollo is Helios, so like Apollo is God of the sun, but he also is the sun. Um, and the earth is not inferior to him as a god and being. Um, and I do believe in my own personal view, and I think a lot of people's view, the mystical, philosophical side of like the mythology of like how um the gods, because pagan gods are more like fables, and like mythology explains how it explains the natural world, and so like the natural world and the divine is, it's the same thing, and they're like reflection of each other. So the divine, the the divine world also like it's um it evolves. So how Ernest had children, right? And the child then he ate all his children, and then one was up against him, and then he Kronos was against Kronos was up against him and defeated him and saved all of his siblings. And then the cycle repeated, and Kronos ate Zeus and his children and his other children, and Zeus rose up and, well, he didn't eat Zeus, um but if you notice this like a repetition in Greek mythology, it's because it's symbolic. It's how history repeats itself, and it's how kind of like symbolic of um, um, evolution. So, like how primitive like Titans were, like the primordials are primitive, and then we, progression into a technological society with more technology, like more like instead of dirt roads, now we have paved roads. And so the gods went from primordial to more of a um, more defined being. And so it's not really separate, really. They're not really separate, but they're like of that. They are that. They are evolution. And so it's very panentheistic, I guess. So now I want to talk about eminence and transcendence. Immanence. This is a word that describes how the divine is present within the world. When we say something is immanent, we mean it's close, woven into reality within and around us, not distant or removed. In spirituality, immanence is the belief that the divine lives in all things, in the earth, our bodies, our breath, our relationships, and nature itself. This idea shows up in many traditions such as paganism. Gods and spirits dwell in rivers, trees, stars, and the cycles of nature. In Hinduism, the divine is within all living beings. Atman, the soul, is one with Brahman. My, I have, oof, my shoulders and my back, pain. In Christian mysticism, God is said to dwell in the heart, in the Eucharist, and in creation. Even Buddhists, I did not know that. So I guess I have a Christian mystic view on things when it comes to the Christian tradition and beliefs. And even in Buddhism, Buddhism has a version of immanence, Buddha nature within all sentient beings. Immanence invites us to experience the sacred here and now through ritual, mindfulness, the seasons, or simply being alive. The opposite of immanence is transcendence, which we will talk about later. Now let's talk about transcendence. The belief that the divine is beyond the physical world, greater than anything we can touch, see, or fully understand. When something is transcendent, it exists outside of space, time, and matter, utterly beyond human experience. In spiritual, in spiritual terms, it means the divine is not bound by the limits of creation. You'll find transcendence emphasized in monotheistic religions like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, where God is often described as all powerful, all knowing, and dwelling in a realm beyond the earth. Neoplatonism, which is a form of like a sect of Hellenic paganism, where the one is beyond all forms and categories, and certain forms of Buddhism, where ultimate reality, nirvana, is beyond ordinary perception. Transcendence inspires awe, reverence, and humility. It reminds us that there is a mystery far greater than us, something eternal, infinite, and untouched by human limitations. But if taken alone, it can make the divine feel distant or unreachable, like a god who's far away, watching but not participating. That's why many traditions balance transcendence with immanence, seeing the divine as both beyond us and within us, the stars and the soul, the eternal and the everyday. Together, transcendence and immanence give us a complete picture, a divine that is bigger than we can imagine, yet closer than our next breath. Mysticism is a deep, ancient path found in almost every spiritual tradition. At its core, mysticism is about direct, personal experience of the divine, not just believing in something, but feeling it, knowing it, or becoming one with it. Mystics don't settle for secondhand truth. They seek a heart-to-heart encounter with the sacred, whether they call it God, the universe, source, or the infinite. Mystical traditions appear all over the world. Christian mysticism teaches union with God through love, silence, and surrender, like in the writings of Meister Eckhart, Julian of Norwich, or Saint John of the Cross. Sufism is the mystical path of Islam, emphasizes ecstatic love and oneness with Allah, seen in the poetry of Rumi. In Hinduism, mysticism appears in paths like jnana, knowledge, bhakti, devotion, and kundalini yoga, seeking union with Brahman. Buddhist mystics focus on realizing emptiness, Buddha nature, and non-dual awareness. And many pagan, indigenous, or esoteric paths use trance, vision, and nature communion to connect with spirits and sacred. Some mystical experiences often include unity with all things, a sense of timelessness or eternity, deep peace, love, or bliss, and visions, dreams, or divine messages. Mysticism can be liberating, transformative, and healing, but it can also be misunderstood, seen as irrational, overly emotional, or even dangerous by rigid religious authorities. Still, mystics across time remind us the sacred isn't just in a book or a church. It lives within us, all around us, waiting to be touched. Asceticism, a spiritual practice of self-discipline, renunciation, and simplicity. At its heart, asceticism is about letting go of physical comforts or worldly pleasures to focus entirely on spiritual growth. Think of it as creating sacred space within the soul by removing distractions, like fasting, celibacy, solitude, silence, or giving up luxuries. Ascetics believe that when we strip away excess, we can hear the divine more clearly or come closer to enlightenment, purity, or liberation. You'll find asceticism in many traditions. In Christianity, monks and saints like Saint Francis of Assisi gave up wealth and lived in poverty to follow Christ more closely. In Hinduism, sadhus and yogis renounce family life and meditate in caves or forests, seeking union with Brahman. Buddhist monks follow strict vows of simplicity to free themselves from attachment and reach nirvana. In Islam, during Ramadan, fasting is a form of temporary asceticism that fosters gratitude and compassion. And in pagan esoteric paths, asceticism can take the form of ritual purification, vision quests, or seasonal fasting to align with the divine cycles of nature. The benefits of asceticism can include deep focus, inner clarity, humility, and powerful spiritual breakthroughs. But there's a shadow side too. If taken to extremes, it can become punishing or self-denying in unhealthy ways, even leading to shame around the body or natural desires. At its best, asceticism isn't about rejecting life, it's about refining it, letting go of noise so the soul can truly listen. So, in a contrast, there is hedonism, which this means. Um, this is a philosophy that says the pursuit of pleasure is the highest good and the true path to a meaningful life. The word comes from the Greek hedone, meaning pleasure or delight, but don't mistake it for reckless indulgence. There are many forms of hedonism, and not all of them are wild or selfish. There are two main types, and I'm the second one, if you can't tell. Um, Also, I have different forms of pleasure than other people do. So, what pleases me, what gives me pleasure, is actually, I realized, is not the same things as what gives other people pleasure. So, I'm not even sure if I'm the first one or second one. Because when I say pleasure, when I say anything really, I'm an introvert, so I'm looking from within. I'm coming from my own perspective, not coming from like a worldwide perspective. I'm not coming from outside within and to within. I'm coming from within to without. So everything I say comes from my own perspective, my own internal perspective, and my eyes are looking inward and not outward. So um, I'm very introspective priestess, mystical priestess like that. Um, so anything that's like when I say pleasure, I'm talking about my pleasure, not like what's stereotypical pleasure, you know? Like stereotypical pleasure is food, drink, sex, drugs, whatever. And I'm just like, none of those things actually gives me like pleasure. Like none of those things actually feels hedonistic to me. Me reading my book while I'm supposed to be doing schoolwork, that is hedonistic. Or like telling myself, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to disrespect myself or do this thing just because it's expected of me. I'm gonna do what I want to. That's hedonistic to me. Not like just doing stereotypical shit. Um, So I'm not really sure like Cyrenaic hedonism is, and versus Epicurean. Um, but Cyrenaic focuses on immediate physical pleasure, which I kind of do. But this says food, drink, sex, sensation is about living in the now, which I do take seriously. I do live in the now, and I do take the now serious because that's all we have is the now. The future is actually not real. The past isn't real. The future isn't real. Literally, all we have is now. And I was raised with an extreme amount of like anxiety, to always be anxious about my future. Like I've been watching Pretty Little Liars recently, and something that Spencer said is exactly how I was raised. Basically, she said her family says her family's motto is why enjoy the present when you can be anxious about the future. That's exactly how I was raised. So you're always anxious about the future, so you're never actually grateful or just taking a moment and be like, wow, I actually accomplished that. It's always like you didn't do enough, you can do better, and once that is accomplished, just keep going. There was no stopping to appreciate or to be gratitude or gratefulness or anything like that. So I don't believe or agree with that. That's extremism. But also, I don't believe in like over stereotyping, like just doing something that's pleasurable just because it's stereotypically pleasurable. Like sex isn't pleasurable to me. I'm not gonna just, have sex and be like, I'm having pleasure. Yeah, I'm hedonistic because it's not pleasurable to me. No, it's a chore for me, and so that's the opposite of hedonism for me. So drinking, I drank. It's literally medicine. Alcohol is medicine. Why would I fucking take medicine to be hedonistic? I'm not. Um, it puts me in a different state of mind where because I have to be in a state of mind to be to force myself to do something I don't want to fucking do, I have to be drunk or high. So drink and like alcohol and drugs aren't hedonistic for me. They're chores. They're medicine. It's like a child saying, "I don't want to take that cough syrup. You have to. No." That's how it is for me. Um, I'm coming from a NA AA viewpoint on that too, but I'm not. Like I said, I'm not. I'm a very unique person. I'm not like the other people. Choose me, pick me. I'm not like other girls, basically. um, I guess I'm more Epicurean hedonistic because Epicurean is about it emphasizes long-term peace and balance. It says the best pleasures are mental, like friendship, wisdom, and freedom from pain. Yes, that one exactly. Because like if I'm studying, right? And if I get a headache, I'm just like, well, I can't do schoolwork anymore because I'm in pain. Or if I have to think too hard and it causes me pain, I'm not gonna fucking think. It causes pain. Pain is bad. So if anything causes pain, I'm supposed to stop doing it. Um, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna like wear a certain like style just because it's like cool. Other people like it. But I don't like it, but other people do. I'm not gonna just wear something, or like be flashy and like that because to me that's pain, and I avoid pain, and I don't think of pain. Unlike aesthetics, aesthetic aestheticism. I'm like those people, right? Where pain is good. Pain is like pain. No pain, no gain. I say pain, no gain. There's pain. I'm not enjoying my life. So the only point of living my life is enjoying it. So I don't care. I'm not gonna cause myself pain. That's my take on things. Um, Epicure, Epic, Epicurus believe that pleasure isn't excess, it's tranquility. So in spiritual modern context, hedonism can look like celebrating life through ritual, art, and sensuality, honoring the body as sacred rather than shameful, finding divine joy in nature, food, music, or love, and saying yes to desire but with awareness. Some forms of modern paganism, Luciferianism, Tantra, and even queer spirituality embrace hedonism as a path to the sacred, reclaiming pleasure from fear, guilt, and control. The strength of hedonism is that it reminds us pleasure isn't the enemy of the divine, it can be the doorway. Joy, beauty, and ecstasy are not distractions from spirit, they are spirit. But the shadow side of hedonism is imbalance. Without mindfulness, it can become escapism, addiction, or chasing empty highs. True hedonism asks not just what feels good, but what brings deep, lasting joy. So, in contrast to asceticism's less is more, hedonism says, what's worth savoring and how can I live deliciously but wisely? So, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna rest my face on my hand, on my like fist, because I'm tired. I'm gonna do what the fuck I want to. So, like I said, I'm hedonistic. Um, so I'm gonna do that. And if you have a problem with it, sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you about that. Um, anyway, UPG. You have heard me talk about UPG a little bit in this video, and this stands for Unverified Personal Gnosis. This is a specifically Wiccan and pagan term. I go through pagan. I don't know if it's used in other traditions, but it's mainly used in Wiccan and eclectic neo-paganism. So gnosis means spiritual knowledge or insight, things you know deep in your heart or mind from personal experience. But UPG specifically means that this knowledge or personal experience it's very personal and it's unverified, meaning it hasn't been confirmed by tradition, scripture, or wider consensus. In other words, UPG is your own spiritual truth or revelation that comes directly from your connection with the divine, the spirit, or the universe, but it's unique to you. It might come through meditation, dreams, rituals, visions, or intuitive feelings. In Wicca and eclectic pagan paths, UPG is embraced as a vital part of spiritual growth because these traditions value personal experience and direct connection over rigid dogma. Many practitioners blend ancient teachings with modern intuition, and EPG allows your spirituality to evolve as you deepen your practice. Basically, like the first maxim of Apollo, know thyself. Know thyself is the most important thing. So UPG is part of that. So that said, it's called unverified because it hasn't been tested or widely confirmed. Sometimes your UPG may expand your understanding, lead to new insights or practices, or even change over time. Some pagans encourage journaling your UPG and sharing it with others to explore its meaning, but also to keep an open mind and be willing to revise it. So, why does this matter? This is because UPG is a reminder that spirituality is often personal and fluid, not a fixed set of rules. It helps keep pagan practice alive, creative, and deeply personal. At the same time, it's wise to balance UPG with caution, especially when it involves ethical or magical work affecting others, by respecting boundaries and learning from tradition and community. So if you ever feel a deep private knowing during your ritual or meditation, that's your UPG speaking. Listen to it, honor it, and see where it leads. But remember, it's your own sacred path to explore. Yeah, so that's it for this video. I'm getting pretty tired, and also I kind of ran out of words. So if there's any words that I've said in my other videos or that's ethnicity specifically, that I haven't talked about as a terminology. And it's like a religious word with like an ism or something else like along those lines. And you want to learn more about it, or you want me to make a video on that, like a part two of this. I think I've done a lot of words on this video, but I know there's probably a lot more. But if you want to make a part two on this, give me some words that I can use that you haven't heard me use in this video. And I want more specifically like words that are like very widespread, like that can be used in many different religions, not just specific like one religion. Um, because there are some terminologies that are specific to a certain religion. So make sure if you do want to recommend me some words to use in a part two of this video, make sure to that they are words that like are more like religious, like generally religious words, to describe different types of religions, and not like a specific like religious word like in Christianity, or like even like Wiccan, specifically Wiccan word or anything like that. I can do a terminology for specifically Wiccan words, but this is not that kind of thing. But yeah, anyway, that's it for this video. Unless I get more words to use for a part two. Um, Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and comment those words. And I'll see you next time. Blessed be. Bye.